Where's Johnny?
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
So simple.
I am Iron Man.
This is a tasty burger.
Welcome to the In Session Film Podcast.
Hello and welcome to Chasing the Gold. I'm In Session Film Awards editor Shadan Larkey. This is a really big episode because it's sort of our first foray into official Oscar predictions. And to help me dive into those, I have a special guest here with me today. Special guest, introduce yourself to our listeners.
Hi, yeah, my name's Jacob. I've loved the award season for years. The first season that I really started following was 2015, when Spotlight won. I've tried to keep up with the history of it, the meaning of it, all this kind of stuff. So it's one thing that I love to go in and look at and predict and guesstimate and see what's right or wrong. So I'm really glad to be on here. I appreciate you and everything you've done, just with the whole awards spectrum at In Session Film. I know I appreciate it. I try to put as many articles as I can out. So I appreciate everything that you've done, and yeah, I'm just excited to get into this season.
No, this is so basically I've actually had my predictions up for a couple weeks now, but we wanted to wait to do this episode until after One Battle After Another came out, because that seemed to be sort of the big looming thing that was waiting for us. So we've sort of updated post that film. But let's do how are you feeling, Jacob? I want to hear.
I was feeling very skeptical earlier in the year. To me personally, a lot of the movies that have been released so far have been okay to some, pretty good. There's a couple outliers that I've loved. And so I was really hoping for a strong back half of the year to really nail down 2025. And it seems like it's coming. One Battle After Another was incredible. I love Paul Thomas Anderson. He's one of my favorite directors, multiple 5-star movies for me. And that just fit right into the Paul Thomas Anderson scope with such ease. And I watched Licorice Pizza again 2 nights ago, Saturday night. And it's so insane how he can do, a small rom-com type of movie that, this big romance type of thing. And then go into making one of the best epics of the last 15 years, in my opinion. So, he really is, one of the better directors that we have, and I just feel lucky to be alive when he's making movies, and he's just only getting better, it seems.
Yeah, well said. I should mention in our episode today, we're going to be covering the craft categories. We'll get to the sort of, I hate to say bigger ones, but bigger ones in a later episode that we're doing together. But in terms of sort of crafts, what are some maybe overall overarching thoughts you have before we dig into these categories?
You'll see. I think, no matter what people think about Wicked, I think Wicked's going to show up quite a bit. I think Sinners, I will get into this later. I don't think Sinners is going to be too heavy above the line, but I think below the line it'll have a really, really strong day. And then I think for some of these awards, it's going to be, in my opinion, One Battle After Another versus Hamnet, and I think that could be how a lot of the season goes down the line. So I've got some down here, some kind of off the wall predictions, I feel, and yeah, I'm just ready to kind of get into it.
Okay, well, all right. So one heck of a tease. So let's get into it. Let's start with best sound. Jacob, since you're my guest, I'll let you go first. What do you have for best sound?
Right now for best sound, I have One Battle After Another at the top spot. I think a lot of the car sequences, especially on the road, um, lots of war type sequences, stuff like that I think they really love, and the sound to me was very impressive. Behind that, I've got Sinners, which I think is going to take like the big non-musical spot of the category. I still have F1 in it. They love their racing, their loudness, etc. And then to round it out, I've got Avatar and Wicked as my 4 and 5. So that's my top 5.
So on the In Session Film website, if you go to my Oscar predictions, I have 10 for each category. The way that I tried to think about it was like the 5 that I think are going to be nominated, and then 5 more films that should be in the conversation, will be in the conversation, etc. And I should just mention right off the bat, with One Battle After Another, I do think that's going to be the sweeper of this year. But the question that I'm kind of struggling with is like how many, because if you look at Oppenheimer and Everything Everywhere All at Once that have been our sweepers in recent memories, they've won 7 apiece. The last film that's gone beyond that is Slumdog Millionaire, back in 2008. So like if we're looking at a 7 to 8 Oscars cap, given that we have casting in the mix this year, like how, it's gonna lose some things. So like what is it gonna lose? So I have Sinners still in my number 1 for sound right now. I mean, that's probably going to change, but I just feel like I don't see One Battle After Another winning every tech prize. And then I have F1, the movie. I absolutely agree. I think that's pretty safe, especially given how much money that film made. There's going to be some tech support for that film. I have Wicked for good. And then I also have Springsteen, Deliver Me from Nowhere. I kind of see that film on a similar path to the Timothy Chalamet, help me out, from last year.
Oh, Bob
Dylan.
Dylan.
Right.
Why can I cannot remember it right now either off the top of my head. A Complete Unknown.
Complete Unknown. I feel that it's going to be kind of on a similar path. It has a lot of like a similar, very Oscar friendly sound team that's been nominated multiple times. So I feel pretty good about being in that spot. Then I have Avatar kind of in my 6th spot. Avatar is also sort of a big looming question, right? I mean, we haven't seen it. I have a feeling that it's not going to be as big as the previous ones. I mean, The Way of Water got VFX. It won VFX. It got a sound nomination. It got picture and production design. So I think it could still get into sound, but I don't think it's going to be as. I don't think it's even going to get to 4 nominations. And then I have Warfare, the Alex Garland film. They do love a war movie. I know Civil War didn't get in, but the Warfare sound design is even stronger in my opinion. It's sort of the standout element of that film. It's probably some of the best sound design of the year. And I think the sound branch does a good job of paying attention. So I think that movie could get in and do at least kind of have that lone sound nomination that we see every year. Like that's a common thing for the sound branch, and I think Warfare could do that this year. And then I also have Frankenstein, Mission Impossible, and The House of Dynamite in the mix as well.
Yeah, that's pretty much. If I had to do a 6 through 10, that's pretty much what I have as well. My big thing right now is I think Springsteen to me isn't going to be a Complete Unknown. It's going to be more the Rocket Man, where it starts to fall off a little bit. And I think we've already started seeing that when it came out to pretty high remarks from some of these festivals. And then it seems like the talk around it has kind of died off significantly. So that's going to be a thing of, is it going to, when it releases, is it going to like really kick off again? Or will it be, like Rocketman, where, maybe Jeremy Allen White wins the music category and then misses at the Oscars. And so I don't know. The Springsteen to me is, it's not Complete Unknown, but it's like a complete unknown prospect to me. I have no idea what to do with that. But yeah, I'm pretty similar on the rest of those 6 to 10 as
Yeah.
well.
I mean, I have a few of those films, like Begonia, the new
Mhm.
I was like, I don't that could be big because it could be big with like the European crowd, or it could not really go anywhere.
Mhm.
House of Dynamite, similarly, I mean, it could just be something that's on Netflix, maybe doesn't do anything at all. Maybe it does show up in some craft categories, like Jay Kelly, I don't know.
Mhm.
Marty Supreme we haven't seen, but that seems to be like it could be a big player, so it's tricky at this point because there's still some bigger names that we haven't gotten to yet. Jacob, let's do best makeup and hairstyling.
All right. I feel pretty confident that this is going to take the whole season, and that's Frankenstein. I just
Mhm.
I think it's not only it's Guillermo del Toro, not only is he doing, you know, a gothic monster movie. It's Frankenstein. There's going to be Jacob Elordi's look, um, and just him alone, I think will probably put it over the edge. Um, at least over the edge of Wicked, which is what I have in second place right now. Third, I have Smashing Machine, um, mainly for the work on Dwayne Johnson, and I think that'll be a big player for that. I've got Sinners fourth after Smashing Machine, and then fifth here I have 28 Years Later. Um, and yeah, if I had to give a couple more, Springsteen's in the mix, Begonia's in the mix. I actually have Weapons still in my top 10. So, and then of course, One Battle After Another, just because it's like the movie of the year. So, so that's kind of my five plus a couple more.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Frankenstein is another one of those question mark films because I, having seen it at TIFF, like I do think the crafts are very good. The question is like what's it going to win? I think it's going to be in the
Hmm.
mix for a lot of these craft categories, and I have it as my winner in several, but I don't know if I'm overestimating it at this point because it is going up against Wicked, which I think it's kind of competing for in a lot of the same categories. So I have Frankenstein as my number one. I agree. I think like it's just I mean the monster design, I cannot say enough good things about how incredible it is. And I think if there's one Oscar that it's gonna be safe for, it's this one. And then I have Smashing Machine, Wicked for Good. I actually still have Sinners in my top five. I have Marty Supreme as well. And then on the outside, I have 28 Years Later, The Wizard of the Kremlin, just because it's a biopic and they like those.
Hmm.
Begonia, and then Kiss of the Spider Woman and Wolfman.
Yeah, I think that's Wolfman was one that I was contemplating with a little bit here and there, just because you know it's you got a giant wolf, but that's the spot where I ended up kind of putting Weapons back in there because I do think it seems like they're actually attempting to give Weapons like a little bit of a push, which could pay off in some categories, and I think a lot of the makeup, I mean, especially like just Benedict Wong's crazed look as he's like chasing after Julia Gardner. I mean, that alone, but not to mention, the look of Gladys and of the kids and everything like that. Uh, I think there's, it's an outside shot, but I think there's a shot.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think Kiss of the Spider Woman is another one of those for me where I'm
Mhm.
like, has musical elements, it has the costumes, like I'm like it could be something or it could not be something. I have
Mhm.
no idea at this point. But I'm like definitely on the lookout for how that's gonna do. Weapons, it's hard because I personally didn't really connect with that film, but I know a lot of other people did, so I'm trying to
Mhm.
like take out my own bias, I guess. But it just seems like I don't know because we've seen a lot of similar movies not able to
Yeah.
cross over, and like yeah, it made a lot of money, but is that we also have like, you know, the Sinners did really well, like One Battle After, like all these other films that are these sort of box office hits that are in contention for the same categories. So like, I just don't know if there's room, and I think it's going to be on the outside looking in ultimately.
Yeah.
All right, Jacob, for best costume design, this one is the one that I'm really struggling with because I have Frankenstein as my number one, just because, again, I think that movie is going to be a big crafts contender, and the costumes are really beautiful. But I mean, Wicked for Good is like right up there. Like I said, I think these two are going to be competing for a lot of the same prizes. The thing is, I would imagine maybe they're going to go with Frankenstein just because it's new. I think it's harder for sequels to win, even though, I mean, we saw Ruthie Carter do it, but that was sort of a off year a little bit for costume design. This year is much, much stronger. That said, Paul Tazewell, I think he's an icon, and if anyone's going to repeat, it could be him. But I think I have Frankenstein with a slight edge here. And then I have Marty Supreme because that seems like it could do well here. I have Sinners because Ruthie Carter, again, she's an icon, and I think the costume design of that film does a lot of the like storytelling. There's a lot of thought and detail. Hamnet, I think the costumes are so good, so like period accurate and lived in, and just really add to the depth of storytelling in that film. I have One Battle After Another in the mix just because it's Colleen Atwood, and the costume branch loves to bring back their icons. Kiss of the Spider Woman again. Wake Up Dead Man, which I don't think is even the strongest Knives Out film, but I think Jenny Bevan has done a lot of really interesting costume work in those films, and the costume design is really strong. But I mean, that's just maybe wishful thinking. And then I have Springsteen, Deliver Me From Nowhere. And lastly, I have Hedda, which is a film that Amazon is handling this year. I don't think it's really going to go anywhere, but the costumes are very, very good. So maybe it has an outside shot. And I don't have it listed, but I should also mention The Phoenician Scheme, which is a film that I really loved. I think it's one of the stronger Wes Anderson films. I loved it more than The French Dispatch. I loved it more than Asteroid City, but it just seems like the Oscars have fallen off his films a little bit, but I think it should be in contention here.
Yeah. I also have Frankenstein first, right in front of
Oh,
Wicked.
do you?
Yeah.
Okay. Tell me. Yeah.
I just think it comes down to with Wicked, there's a couple categories where I feel like the immediacy of what, like Wicked 1 to Wicked 2, it might hurt it a little bit, just because, you know, it's not Lord of the Rings. You know, no matter how much people like Wicked, or it's not a movie that I feel is going to be in contention to win Best Picture. And I feel like there's going to be a lot of, you know, we just awarded this film in a lot of different categories. And I think Frankenstein takes the edge. I think Guillermo del Toro is so accurate. I haven't seen the movie yet, but I just know how his attention to detail and his craftsmanship is it's always immaculate. I mean, even in the movies that aren't seen as positives, like Nightmare Alley, it's that the crafts are always there. And I think I right now have Frankenstein getting the edge over Wicked, just for that fact, and again for that kind of recency, whatever. And then Sinners after, same reason as you. And then I also have Hamnet and Marty Supreme following up at my number 5. I think Josh Safdie is going to do a lot of really fun costumes for that movie. I think the trailer showed there's going to be a lot of different suits and dresses and whatever else. There's going to be so much changes, and especially, you know, for the ping pong uniform, as well. I think there's going to be a lot to I think there's going to be a lot to look at, and so I've got Marty Supreme in at my 5, and then I agree with you for the rest. I've got Springsteen, One Battle After Another, because I feel like it has to be at least mentioned in a lot of these. Begonia as well. Just Yorgos Lanthimos. He's done it before, and he'll keep doing really wacky, crazy sort of things.
That's a
And
really
then
good call.
and
That's a
then
really good call.
Springsteen as well.
Yeah, I'm probably gonna put Begonia in over Wake Up Dead Man. That's a good call. That's why you're here, Jacob.
Yeah, I'm glad
Yeah.
glad I was able to help out a little bit.
Yeah. All right. What about production design?
Production, let me get to it. Production design. I had Frankenstein first, and then the Hamnet trailer came out, and they talked about how they fully recreated Shakespearean stages and everything, and they talked about how Chloe Zhao talked about how she went from Marvel, where she had everything, to one small street corner, and I think a lot of that I think is going to come together and work well. And so I've got right now I have Hamnet at 1, and then Frankenstein at 2. I've got Wicked in at 3, just because I feel like it's still going to be pretty production design heavy, just like the first one was. Right now I've got Sinners as my 4, and my 5 I put in One Battle After Another, just for there's a lot of small intricacies, especially in the housing, in all of the we'll call them like cells and stuff like that. There's so much little stuff that was done production design wise, and I feel like that will come to fruition. And then after, I've got Avatar, Begonia, and Marty Supreme are my kind of 3 that I've got right after those top 5.
Yeah, this one's hard because I feel like I have 4 that I'm pretty confident about, and then the rest I'm like, you could throw, I don't know. So I actually still have Frankenstein as my number 1, just because it is, for all the reasons we talked about for costume design. And I think it's just, they love that sort of Del Toro craftsmanship, and he's really pushing his whole team. I have Wicked for Good at number 2. Sinners at number 3. I actually have Avatar getting in because, as mentioned, the last one got in for production design. I could see that one coming back. I have Hamnet in at my number 5. I'm tempted to push it up just for all. You made a very good case. I personally wasn't as blown away by the production design on a whole, other than the Globe Theater, which is really stunning, and that is sort of the big sequence of the film. So I think it's going to get nominated. I'm just not confident that it's going to be like a major contender to actually win. Mm-hmm. And then I have Kiss of the Spider Woman again, because it just looks really lush and big, and the kind of thing that this category really likes. I also have The Testament of Anne Lee, which is a film that I really, really loved out of TIFF, and I have it, I had it in sound. I had it in a lot of places. It just doesn't have a distributor yet. So I've heard like mixed things. Some people are saying, oh, it's definitely coming out this year. And some people are like, no, it's not. So I don't know. If it does come out, I think it's going to be a huge, huge crafts contender, because it's really good. And it deserves to be. But I just don't know. I don't know if it's coming out. So it's kind of tricky. And then I have, Marty Supreme, One Battle After Another. And then I also, snuck in the Phoenician Scheme here again, because I just think the production design is really, really good.
Yeah, one thing I wasn't thinking about Marty Supreme is that, being like, they still have that sports element, even though it's doesn't feel like a sports movie. And so those arena scenes with, multiple like ping pong tables and all this kind of stuff all put together. That definitely could be something that if the movie really kicks off, um, it's definitely going to be something worth talking about.
Yeah. All right. What do you have for best original song?
Best best original song. I really, really, really want to put K-pop Demon Hunters at my number one. The problem I think is going to come in the fact of like with adding songs to such a beloved musical. I think Wicked might lose out on a couple of crafts wins here and there, but I do think that original song is where they're going to take it. If not for I don't know the names of the songs, but if not for the Cynthia Erivo song, it's going to be for the Ariana Grande song that I both think are going to be nominated. As mentioned, I do have Golden in my top 3 right now. It's such a big song. It's such a strong player, especially worldwide. It's just it's going to come down to, is it going to be worldwide popular appeal for a song, or is it going to be popular appeal for pop singers? And then I have I Lied to You from Sinners. I think that's still going to be in the 5. And then Diane Warren, just because if you are predicting original song and not putting Diane Warren at least in your top 5, you might as well just go 4 for 5 in the category. Like until she either wins, no, even if she wins, until she, goes away or stops writing or whatever, like
As long as she's in contention, yeah.
she loves doing this. She loves being nominated. She loves going to the parties. She seems like a social butterfly. She will be in every single time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have the same 5 as you. I do actually have Golden winning right now, simply because it's just everywhere. It's so beloved. Everyone, even if you haven't seen the movie, you know the song. And I think if Wicked has sort of multiple big songs in contention, maybe that's enough to push Golden over the top. I also don't know, because I've heard conflicting things. I don't know if Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande are credited on the songs. Like if it's just gonna be, I think, Steven Schwartz, then like maybe that's
Yeah,
that's
that
going to
could
be a
change it a little
problem,
bit.
because the thing is, if the narrative is this is the song that's going to give Cynthia Erivo her EGOT, absolutely no place like home. It's going number 1. But if she's not in contention, then I think that then Golden is going to be the one here. And then I also, I have I Lied to You from Sinners. I have The Girl in the Bubble, which is Ariana's song, and the Diane Warren song Dear Me, for all the reasons that you mentioned. Just to give you like my top 10, I have a song from The Testament of Ann Lee. Again, I think if that movie comes out, it's gonna be everywhere. And then I have the song, the ballad from Highest to Lowest, just because I thought it was a good song. And I feel like if Apple makes a push for it, it may be in the short list, or the long list, I should say. And the song from Materialist as well. But it seems like right now, I mean, we don't really have that many major contenders. I mean, it's still early in the season. I think Zootopia 2 might have a song in contention. Like, we're still waiting to see on a lot of these. But yeah, I feel like right now it's going to be Golden versus a song from Wicked versus potentially a song from Sinners. That's kind of what the race is looking. Yeah.
Yeah. I agree. I think Sinners versus Wicked. I mean, I could see a world where I Lied to You wins, with it being the big number song, where I think the difference is going to come in that with Wicked, you're going to have multiple big number songs from big number performers, etc. But I think I Lied to You is that is the song and the scene of the movie that you walk away from thinking that this is something more than just, a vampire movie. Like that is the scene. And I definitely think it's getting nominated. and I could see. I mean, I could see it winning with it being, not. I think people will put the scene in it as well, and with the scene being such an ode to Black history, Black music, etc. I think that could really push it up into that higher spot potentially as a winner.
Right. No, I completely, and it feels different, right? It feels like
Uh-huh.
something that stands out from the other contenders we're talking about. It's not a pop ballad. It's not a, musical ballad type thing. Like it feels like it's a very unique kind of crafted thing. Like you mentioned, it feels very cinematic, and I think that works in its favor. The problem with Sinners is, as I mentioned, it feels like it's competing with a lot of really big titles for all the same things. And so like,
Hmm.
does it have enough to overcome that? I don't know. And then now you have WB that has like sort of the big two horses. They have Sinners and they have One Battle After Another. So how are they going to be able to handle major campaigns for multiple categories? Like, I don't know. I don't know if One Battle After Another is just going to become their big horse in the race and maybe Sinners falls by the wayside a little bit. So like, is it going to get nominated? Yes, absolutely. Is it going to have enough horsepower to kind of take it over the edge? I don't know, especially when you have songs that are going to be everywhere, like a Golden that everyone already knows and is number one, and like every kid is singing it, every parent has it stuck in their head type of a thing.
Hmm. And I also think with K-pop Demon Hunters, not only was it like number one, it was like breaking records for how well it was doing, just music in general. I would assume it's gonna do great, probably at the Grammys as well. I could see this being nominated for Song of the Year at the Grammys, and
Mm-hmm.
so you're gonna have a lot of that behind it as well.
And K-pop Demon Hunters, I mean, it's Netflix's biggest title of all time. Like it's,
Hmm.
it's just a behemoth. Let's do best original score, Jacob. What do you got?
Okay. I have this, and you can, because I haven't seen Hamnet, so you can correct me if I'm wrong. I have it as, in my opinion, a two-horse race between One Battle After Another and Hamnet. Right now, I have One Battle After Another first. Um, the score was, I mean, there was action scenes, like action score moments. Even from just the beginning, it's this loud and sprawling. It's something that we've seen from Ludwig Göransson many a time. Um, and I think, Johnny Greenwood's been nominated twice. He hasn't won. I think he's made a lot of really great music for a lot of really great films, and I think this could be his ticket to getting a win. I've Hamnet at two. Of course, Max Richter has never been nominated. Um, but even just from the trailer, I could tell that it's going to be. It seems to me like it's going to be emotional. It's going to be pretty strong as well. Nicholas Bertel for Jay Kelly is my three. I have Alexander Desplat for Frankenstein at four, and then I'm rounding it out with Sinners and Ludwig Göransson as my five.
Yeah, I have One Battle After Another. I think the sort of Johnny Greenwood being overdue. I think a lot of people thought he was going to win for The Power of the Dog. And so I just think it's his time. And if we're doing the PTA's time, I think it's also
Mhm.
Greenwood's time. And I think, yeah, I feel pretty good about it as of right now, as sort of being one of the things that One Battle After Another can carry along. I have Sinners at number two. I think it's just that music is so interwoven in the storytelling, and it's just like the sort of iconic part of that movie to me. And I don't see how you can talk about Sinners as sort of a big movie of the year without the score being in contention. In number three, I have The Testament of Anne Lee. If this movie is coming out this year, like it's going to be nominated for score. The Daniel Blumberg score is incredible. The way the music is interwoven in the story is incredible. Like if it comes out, he's going to be a contender to be nominated and a contender to win. The score is that strong. I also have Nicholas Bertel in for Jay Kelly. I have this Hamnet score in for number 5. And then to round out my list, I have Marty Supreme, Frankenstein, Begonia, House of Dynamite. I have After the Hunt. They're probably gonna I feel like that movie's a little bit dead, but yeah, are there any other contenders here that maybe we should be on the lookout for?
Let me see. I have okay. I've got Sentimental Value. I have in my 10. And Hans Zimmer. I don't have really in my 10, but he's Hans Zimmer. You know, going back to Sinners, it's almost one of those things where like his wins have been more than deserved. But if Ludwig Göransson wins a third Oscar in less than 10 years, it's like we have to really start considering as him being like, you know, the high levels of film composers, which I think is deserved. But I wonder if that's going to go into account of, you know, especially with him winning 2 years ago again. So that's why I kind of have Sinners a little bit lower. But I do agree. I think the music is so it's a music movie, but not a musical. And I think that what Göransson does is so important to the story as much as anything.
Yeah, I don't think he's actually necessarily a threat to. I think he's gonna be like whoever wins, he'll be the number 2. I just feel really strongly about. You know what I mean?
He's stuck in number 2.
Yeah.
Like, and people can pass him, but he's still gonna be stuck in number 2.
Yeah, I completely agree. Okay, so for best visual effects, I have Avatar, Fire and Ash winning. The previous 2 films have won this. It just seems like kind of, I don't want to say safe, but like a little bit safe to just be like, it's coming back, it's gonna win, it's gonna be the big like visual effects spectacle. I have Wicked for Good. I have F1. I'm struggling. I mean, because I have Frankenstein, and then I have Fantastic Four: The First Steps. I don't feel good about that. I just feel like they usually have some sort of superhero type movie, and maybe Fantastic Four is going to be the one here. You could make an argument for Superman. That's my number 6 right now, but I feel like those are easily interchangeable. How to Train Your Dragon. Yeah, it's like a live action, but I mean the VFX were pretty good and sort of beloved. Tron Ares, again, I don't know how that movie's going to do. I feel like it could just come and go, or it could be a tech contender for some of these. And then I have Mission Impossible and Jurassic World Rebirth.
So I have Avatar at 1. I think it's the easiest. It's, you know, it's every year an Avatar movie comes out. I feel like this is just the easiest category to predict. I've got Wicked at 2. I have F1 as my 3. I also have Frankenstein at 4. And then my kind of superhero type movie was Superman. So I've got Superman 8 at my 5. I just think Superman, I think it was reviewed just as well, if not better than Fantastic Four. But it also, you know, you've got Feelings of Hope. You've got, you know, James Gunn, who's people have loved, and this is kind of like the ship turning for the DC, you know, DC universe or whatever, and with this being kind of that Kickstarter of something that could hopefully snowball into a good universe. I think if they do one of them, I feel like that's the one they would go with. And then I also have Mission Impossible, How to Train Your Dragon. If I remember correctly, The Lion King was nominated here, so it's like they don't, you know, they don't care about what it's adapting from. They just hope that it looks good, and from all accounts, it has looked pretty good and looks pretty similar to the animated film. So I've got that one there. It's same with Tron Ares. I mean, this movie could come out and be absolutely nothing, or it could be, a tech contender. We forgot to mention for original song and original score, but like Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross, they're bringing back Nine Inch Nails for it. So there's a
Yeah.
chance in both of those categories as well.
And sound,
that,
sound, I think
yeah.
Tron could show up there for sure. Yeah.
And so it's such an unknown, but that's one of those where it's like we could do this whole podcast and then come back 2 weeks later and be like, oh, we should have added at least Tron into the to the top 10. So so that's my 5 right now with a couple of extras. But I think it's Avatar's to take, and I don't think anyone's going to be taking it from them.
I think you made a good argument though for Superman being in my 5. But yeah, it feels like a little bit locked in just in terms of what movies we could see, and that always scares me because it's so early. So I'm like, what am I missing?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so for best cinematography, I'll let you go because what do you have for cinematography?
I have One Battle After Another first. I think there's a lot of really open scenes, which there's a lot of landscape moments. There's a lot of like, it's they say every year it's all of these you could put on a picture frame on the wall. Like they just look so strong. There's one in particular where there's a conversation between Sean Penn and the detective assassin person that he hires, and it's from such a far off shot, and the whole thing is it's gorgeous. It is gorgeous to see. But then you have all of these small tight spaces that doesn't seem like you could fit even a person in there. So getting people and camera in there is pretty spectacular. And just the entire look of it overall. And then I've got Hamnet at my number 2. I have Frankenstein at 3. I've got Begonia right now at 4. And I have Marty Supreme at 5, followed by Sinners and Train Dreams and Avatar and Jay Kelly.
Oh. Okay. So I also have One Battle After Another as my number 1. Immediately after I saw the film, that's actually the first category that I went, nope, you're going number 1. For all the reasons you mentioned, I think they're making a good push of especially making the people in Hollywood and the voters seeing it in like VistaVision and all these sort of premium formats.
Which and matters.
Yeah. Right.
No, I was saying like that, which is like, yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think, spoiler alert, if we're looking at One Battle After Another as our best picture winner, cinematography traditionally goes along with the ride. So it just seems like a very kind of obvious win, and a very deserved win. Then we kind of get to like the rest of the categories. I have Frankenstein in my number 2. I just think it's beautiful, and it's another one of those films where every shot feels like you could just take a picture of it. I have Hamnet in at number 3. I have Sinners in at number 4. I feel like that's something that's probably going to potentially shift a little bit lower as the season progresses. I have Marty Supreme in at number 5. Again, Marty Supreme, I feel like I have it way too high in most of these categories, but it just seems like something that they may go for, but I could be very wrong, and I feel like this list may look very different a month from now. And then I have The Testament of Anne Lee at number 6. I think, again, if that movie comes out, I think it's going to be a major cinematography contender. It's another one of those that's just gorgeous and interesting and just a stunner. And I think it's going to show up. I have Begonia. I have is it Nouvelle Vague, the Richard Linklater film, because it's black and white and it looks nice, and I think that could be a contender. I have Train Dreams. Listen, I love Train Dreams. I wish it was a major contender. I don't think it's going to be just because it's so small. But if there's a just world of people actually paying attention to these movies, like it should be a contender. I just don't know if it. I don't know, but I want it to be. And then I have Jay Kelly.
Yeah,
But yeah.
I was gonna say I think that if there's a category, it seems like cinematography is one of those categories where they really go for it in some instances. For instance, just going over the past couple of years, Maria did nothing. It got cinematography. El Conde did nothing. It got cinematography. Um, Bardot didn't do much. It got cinematography. Um, then you've got, Tragedy of Macbeth got cinematography. Nightmare Alley. I think the Lighthouse got cinematography. So this is a category where they really go for, if people see the movie and if they like the look of it, it'll get the nomination. That's why I have Train Dream so high, is because I feel like Netflix has so much on their plate that if they focus Train Dreams down to, cinematography and then maybe screenplay, I think that they could really do something with that, as long as the people see it. But I agree. I said it a little bit earlier, but I think when you really, really highlight the craft of the film and you tell people it's the same thing, it's the reason why James Cameron wins visual effects for every Avatar movie, because he goes, you have to go see this in 3D. You have to see how the water, like all, it's the same thing with One Battle After Another. Making it so apparent that it was in VistaVision, 70 millimeter, etc., stuff like that. That all matters, especially in a category where you're really highlighting the look and the movement of the film. And so that's my number one. But also, the new Jay Kelly trailer came out. People love their Hollywood. People love their Hollywood recreations, and people love Linus Sandgren. So, that's one where I don't have it high, or like I have it at that 8, 9, 10 range. But the right pieces fall, and that could start making a push towards that top 5.
Right. I mean, you mentioned a lot of these films that sort of got the lone cinematography nomination, and what they all had in common was sort of these like A-list cinematographers that the branch knows and loves and is able to push them over the edge. So that's why like something like a Jay Kelly, seems, more obvious than a Train Dreams, even though Train Dreams, in my opinion, is like a more deserving. That's the thing. And like one of the things about these nominations is like, okay, we've narrowed it down to like what, a crop of 15 films that maybe we keep coming up with over and over again. And so like, what are the films that maybe could break through? There's a lot of potential there, but then we keep, the Oscars kind of in recent years have sort of clustered. It feels like there's a smaller amount of films that are getting nominated, is my point, right? So like,
yeah,
yeah,
I agree.
Where do you sort of take risks and like potentially see, more something else breaking through? I don't know. I guess maybe right now I'm playing it too safe, but
But you have to right now. I mean,
yeah.
You've seen more than me and more than a lot of people, so I know you have a better kind of understanding. But there's still, I mean, Marty Supreme, that movie could come out and just be a complete flop, while something like, Smashing Machine is absolutely loved by, industry and whatnot. And so there still are a lot of unknowns. So it's like you have to like really take your risks. Like you have to really like think about what risk you're trying to take.
And yeah, and I guess maybe we can touch on this when we get to, I think with One Battle After Another, they were really smart to have it skip the festivals. I think that really helped it, because they were just like, we made this thing, we know it's really good, here it is. I think when you have sort of a prolonged festival run, you build up hype, and then you end up seeing the movie and you're like, oh, that's what that, that's the thing that, and I think a lot of these films are suffering from that. Something like A Sentimental Value, something like The Smashing Machine. I think like early hype isn't necessarily a good thing, but then I keep going back to last year with Anora where it like, won the Palme d'Or at Cannes, and then like it seemed like it faded a little bit and then it came back. So I'm like, maybe we're started discounting things a little bit too early, even though it's September and it sounds ridiculous to say that, but let's do editing. Jacob, what do you have for best editing?
I've got at my 1, I've got Marty Supreme, which is probably one of the bigger risks that I've taken in these craft categories. But it's like I said earlier, it still is a sports movie. There's going to be the ping pong sequences, and knowing how Josh Safdie has made movies in the past, and there's going to be a lot of quick cuts. There's going to be a lot of camera movement. I feel like there's going to be a lot of, in a sense, over editing, which if you look at the past couple of winners, that's kind of what they've been going for. Most editing has equaled good editing. So I have Marty Supreme at 1, and then One Battle After Another following that. I've got Hamnet at 3. At 4, I actually have gone with Sentimental Value. I feel like 1, 2, and maybe 3. There's going to be a lot of really strong edited sequences that I feel like something like Sentimental Value may be a little bit more subtle, but still work for what they're going for. And then I have no other choice at 5 because nobody knows how to edit a scene or put anything together like Park Chan-wook, and I'm weary to say this is going to be the movie that he really, really breaks through, because not only has he never been nominated for an Oscar, none of his films have ever been nominated for an Oscar. So it's like, is this going to be the one that does it? I think so. And I think if it does, the editing just has to go with it, because I mean, some of the things that he comes up with, and some of the edited scenes and what he's cutting to, and it's insane. It's truly insane. Following, I've got Sinners, Begonia, House of Dynamite, F1, and then Jake Kelly as my rounding out my 10 for that one.
Yeah. I think I'm really, man. Yeah. Okay. So I have One Battle After Another as my number 1, just because I think the way that the movie, like, you never feel the runtime. It just feels like it just moves so smoothly, and again, there's just such a strong correlation between editing and picture, so it just makes sense that those two would go together. And the editing was one of the big standouts of the crafting to me. And so yeah, I have it as my number 1, and then I have Marty Supreme as my number 2 for all the reasons you mentioned. They like most editing, and it feels like there's going to be a lot of editing. I actually have no other choice. At my number 3, I do think it's going to be in fact, I think I'm underestimating No Other Choice. And even though I didn't particularly care for it that much, I think the editing was like probably one of the strongest elements of that film. And it just seems like if it's going to hit, and I think it's going to show up. I have Hamnet in at number 4 and Sinners at number 5. Sinners, I'm starting to really like, maybe I'm overestimating that film. I don't know, but I just feel like it's like too big to feel like it's fallen off completely just yet. Like maybe if one of these other films becomes a bigger deal, like it'll push it down, but I just feel like it's one of the behemoths, and so like how do you not have it in for editing, I feel like at this point. And then I have Wicked for Good, A House of Dynamite, F1 the movie, again, The Testament of Anne Lee. And then for number 10, I have It Was Just an Accident, which I think, again, feels like it's falling off a little bit. But liked the editing quite a bit. I think it's going to be a contender in a lot of categories, so it could be something. But I think sentimental value, very good call. So maybe I'll swap them out. But yeah, I think it's for the win, we're maybe looking at 2 or 3 options. So like, what's going to fill out the rest of the category? I don't know.
Yeah. No, and I think it was just an accident. I definitely think it's getting the international nom, which I mean we'll talk about shortly, but I think it's getting at least one nomination outside of that. And it's like, will it be for editing? Will it be for director? Will it be for screenplay? Will it be for actor? I think that there's all of these options, and so it's not a bad call to keep it in there, but it has been falling off quite a bit. I think just because more international films have started, not that it's falling down, but they're just catching up to it.
Yeah, we'll touch on this, but like there are so many international films that are not just in contention for that prize, but for a lot of it. Like this is such a strong year for international features. It's kind of crazy. So it's like, how many slots are we giving to international features for other categories? I have no idea at this point. Like that's really one of my big questions, is because in recent years we've seen these international films like really break through in picture, director, etc. But like this year feels like it's going to be even bigger. And then you have these sort of like kind of American quote unquote marquee movies like a One Battle After Another that feels very American, like a Sinners that feels very American Southern, like how do those ideas compete with one another? I don't know. I feel like it's fascinating to me. Absolutely fascinating. Okay, so Jacob, before we close out, we wanted to touch on documentary real quick. Because that's a category that's still coming together, but I do, want to give it its space, even though I'm not sure. I'm not sure at all. But I'll have The Eyes of Ghana at number 1. I have The Perfect Neighbor, The Alabama Solution, Put Your Soul on Your Hand and Walk, Cover Up, 2,000 Meters to Androbika, Baka, Apocalypse in the Tropics, Nobody Against Mr. Putin, Sly Lives, aka The Burden of Black Genius, and Seeds as my 10. For this, I went based off of buzz. We have some big names in the category, kind of coming back, but I don't really think we have a big front runner as of right now.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have, there's been a couple over the past couple of years that it's like you've had such a heavy front runner that of course missed. But then you've had, that kind of number 2 where you were like, oh, well, it was obvious the whole time. I also have The Perfect Neighbor as my number 1. I've got 2,000 Meters. Second, I have Seeds, Mr. Nobody, and Cutting Through the Rocks. And then Orwell, 2 + 2 = 5. I have kind of on the outside. It seems like one of those that is so obvious. It's Orwell. But it also could so easily just miss out. So that's kind of my 6 that I have listed for now. And of course, once more people start seeing them and I'm able to see them, and the season gets later on, we'll have a better understanding. But for right now, I just, like you said, I don't really have too much to say on it, but that's kind of my 6.
Yeah, I didn't include the Orwell one just because, and I didn't get a chance to see it at TIFF, but everything I heard was like, oh, it was just okay. I wasn't blown away, but I kept hearing that over and over again. Yeah, so we'll have to come back on that one. So we are going to cut it off here and come back with the sort of top categories. Jacob, do you have any other like closing thoughts? Anything that stood out to you in our discussion that we should touch on in terms of the crafts before we move on?
the one thing that I thought going through is, and this might be a spoiler for or a teaser for the next time, but I have Frankenstein in way too many categories to have it as low as I had it on the Best Picture. Um, so I might have to make a couple adjustments before we talk again. But yeah, I mean, I think that there's 2 to 3 movies, um, in my opinion, being, Frankenstein, One Battle, Hamnet, and, you know, Wicked as the fourth, that I think are going to really kind of, um, that are really going to dominate the craft categories. And then this might be another spoiler for my above the line categories, but I mean, I had Avatar in what, 2? I had it winning VFX and not even in another top 5. So it's like, how well does that bode for a potential Best Picture nom?
Yeah.
That your fully crafted movie isn't, in my opinion, up for many craft awards. So we'll definitely see, but I think that the crafts this year are going to be really interesting to see kind of where they go. And I think more so than recent years, I think there's a lot of competition, which is good. It's going to make for hopefully a more fun and hopefully a less predictable Oscar night.
Yeah. I think, yeah, I have a lot of, like I said, question marks, even after talking to you, because I'm like, I think I'm just overestimating Marty Supreme, maybe. Like, maybe
Yeah.
I'm not, like, and, the Springsteen movie, like, I feel like, okay, sound, like, all these things, but then I'm like, maybe that's not going to go anywhere. Begonia, again, like, I'm like, is it just going to be too weird? Maybe I'm underestimating that film. Maybe because maybe the Europeans are just gonna go crazy for that movie. Like Jay Kelly, maybe I'm overestimating Noah Baumbach. I don't know. I feel like, as you mentioned, like it's a movie about Hollywood. It's Clooney. Like they seem to be doing a big push for it, but like it could just, and then again, like a House of Dining, like those kinds of movies, The Kiss of the Spider Woman. Like we haven't seen them. They could be nothing. They could be contenders. And then you could just have a year where it's like, okay, you have sort of the one battle after another becomes the big sweeper. Maybe Sinners picks up a few things, and then maybe something like Frankenstein just kind of walks away with the crafts categories, and maybe that's the narrative and that's it. I don't know. Like, am I spreading the wealth too much? Like, maybe that's, yeah. I'm basically questioning everything. That's where I'm an hour into
as
this.
As you should.
Yeah. And I've destroyed all confidence in my own predictions.
Yeah, no, I just going through this and talking, there's a lot of question marks, and I'm excited to see how they start to fall later this season.
Yeah. Jacob, before we say goodbye, tell the folks, the good listeners and viewers, where they can find you and follow your work. Give yourself a little plug, if you will.
Okay. You can find me on Twitter at JTberry97. You can find me on Instagram at JTberry97. You can find me on Letterboxd at JTberry97. You can find me at TikTok. I'm at Tickety Talk. I was able to get that like right when it started, and I'm thinking I made one film TikTok and it did, I guess, okay. So I'm thinking of trying to start doing more on there. So yeah, just follow me wherever you can, and you can of course see my work here especially, and hopefully I'll be having more coming out pretty soon.
Yes. Yeah, I'm at Shadan Larkey everywhere. As always, I want to encourage you to rate and review the podcast, spread the word. Let us know what you think of our predictions. What are we overestimating? What are we underestimating? And Jacob and I will be back to talk about the above the line categories in podcast very soon. But thank you for listening, and we will see you soon.